12, 11, 10. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
What everyone should say is the medium is the message, and the message is me. I mean, that's the answer, is for everyone to, you're asking for an answer. The answer is for everyone to stand up and say, I'm me, and be fully aware of that fact and let everyone else know it.
Yeah.
That you are yourself, and express it.
Throughout time, man has gazed at the sun, the heavens, and the moon, and studied their movements. As civilizations became more complex, a means of understanding the seasons and organizing time became necessary. And nowhere is this more evident than in the Salt River Valley of Arizona, home of the hugely successful and industrious ancient Hohokam Indians.
On September 9th, I was at the Hohokam Ancient Indian site in what is called Sears ruins. The Hohokam are
extremely adaptable, had a successful society for 14 centuries. They developed a very harmonious lifestyle.
In the harsh desert environment, the total Arizona population of these ancient people could well have topped 100,000.
West were highly intelligent people. They were just as intelligent as we are.
The Hohokam Indians, a tribe of Indians that basically vanished. That's not even their true name. That was a name given to the tribe by the Pima Indians. And there are some similarities to Easter Island. And that's actually why I was at the ruins. I was doing some comparisons with some mythology and folklore.
It's 1722 when the Dutch voyage enters uncharted waters. They're searching for the legendary Terra Australis Incognita, or the unknown southern land. Like other explorers of the era, the Dutch believe there's a massive undiscovered continent that covers the southern portion of the Earth, nearly touching Australia. They want to get there first. The explorers float through the South Pacific until on Easter Day they spot something on the horizon, a coastline. It's not Terra Australis, it's an island.
Of Easter Island, a remote piece of volcanic soil far away in the Pacific Ocean. But our planet hosts thousands of such lonely islands. What is so particular about this one? The mystery is concealed not on the island itself, but the giant stone statues covering it. Who created the world-famous huge stone heads? Did they serve any specific purpose? Where did their creators arrive from, and where did they disappear?
Moai depicted the important ancestors of the Rapa Nui. They believe the sculptures provided a powerful spiritual energy called mana to the island's people. But mana alone couldn't meet the demands of a growing population. In the period after the Dutch 1722 visit, disease suffocated the island. Then came famine and warfare. Scores of displaced people took to living underground or in caves. It was in the bleak reality of war and starvation that a new religious order took hold, the Birdman Cult. The ancestral deities and old Polynesian gods fell into myth, leaving ʻmakeʻmake as the true god. He was the god of fertility, often portrayed as a half-man, half-bird holding an egg, a symbol of hope and renewal for the traumatized and impoverished Rapa Nui. The Birdman Cult introduced an annual competition among warriors from different tribes. The goal was to retrieve the first sooty tern egg of the year. The challenge was that the competition started here, on the crater-side village of Orongo. The eggs were here. The eggs were here. competitors traverse down the 1,000-foot sheer rock face of the crater and jump into the ocean. Some will be smashed against the rocks or eaten alive by sharks. It's a mile-long swim before they reach Moto Nui. There they scale the jagged cliffs and scan the area for the bird nest. The warrior hands the egg to his tribe's chief or sponsor. From here, the chief takes the glory. He's crowned the new Tangata Manu, or the Birdman. For the next year, he's believed to be the living incarnation of ʻmakeʻmake. He's shaved from head to toe, his eyelashes are plucked, and his head is painted. He and his tribe are now the rulers of the island.
I just stopped at a Starbucks here off of Interstate 10, about 7 miles away from the National Monument, and I just asked a couple of people, because the Starbucks is pretty much packed, if anybody has heard of the Hohokam National Monument, and the lady behind the register said it's vaguely familiar to her. The rest of the people I asked said they haven't a clue as to where that's at, and they have never heard of it. Very interesting.
But even more so, there was this weird coincidence. As I'm out there recording and making this video about one subject, I see these helicopters and they're flying all around, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they're doing a rescue, somebody is hurt. And we had been having record high heat, and there had been 3 rescues the day before.
That is totally a rescue. Is it? Oh gosh, I hope they're okay.
And so I thought that's what it was. But then it just kept occurring, and it was constant. And I thought, okay, they're practicing.
Yeah, so what I find interesting is I've looked at other maps, and I put in Snaketown. And when I put in Snaketown, it doesn't tell me that it's an Indian reservation that I'm going to, that it's on Indian reservation land. The Hohokam National Monument falls within the boundaries of the Gila River Indian Community. According to the National Park Service, the Gila River Indian Community has decided not to open the extremely sensitive area to the public. This is as close as you can get to Snaketown without permission. This site dates back as far as 300 BC, and it is likely that it was inhabited continuously through the year 1200. My next stop was to the Hohokam Heritage Center. I also realized that there is no cameras or video photography allowed within the Heritage Center.
3 weeks later, in the exact same spot, there was a fire. A fire began. And in this spot where I just happened to be recording, that they were practicing these fire rescue techniques.
Now let's talk about our wildfire watch. Buildings up in flames as a fast-moving fire spreads in the North Valley. This is called the Sears fire, and it jumped to 5,200 acres overnight.
They were practicing these fire rescue techniques.
100 acres overnight. It's burning on the Cave Creek Ranger District. Neighbors in the Sears K Ranch area did have to evacuate for a time. It's unclear what sparked those flames.
Is where the fire began. And unfortunately, not one thing has been mentioned about the ancient Hohokam Indian site that also was burned in the fire.
Dozens of sunrises, sunsets, and interactions of light with petroglyphs from different locations around the valley visually demonstrate the vast network of archaeological sites where the Hohokam skywatchers carried on their most important work, the task of keeping track of the movements of the sun. Special interest will focus on the rock shelter at Shaw Butte.
Every time I'm in this rock shelter, I'm amazed at how the Hohokam manipulated the stones in the roof here to create light patterns that mark important solar events in the Hohokam calendar. During both the fall and spring equinox, a beam of light comes through a hole in the ceiling and marches along the edge of this crack for about an hour, from about 11 a.m. until noon.
Signifying the midday for the Hohokam.
Right around noon, the light disappears as a dot through a notch at the top of the crack.
It is also interesting to note that the typical ending times of these light shows is within a few minutes of actual midday of the spring and fall equinox and the winter and summer solstice. To this day, this structure is still accurate.
The statues, visible from the first sight, make up 3/8 of each statue's size. As for the arms, they were carved against the bodies, resting in different positions. Most statues, 834 out of 887, were carved from the material called tuff, which is, in fact, compressed volcanic ash. Curiously, all the statues, except one group, face inland. It means their backs are turned to the ocean. Perhaps the reason for that was the belief that the statues were the protectors of the villagers. That's why they overlooked the settlement. The only statues not fitting into this pattern can be found at Ahuakivi, a sacred place for the people of Rapa Nui. There is a unique statue on the island. It is the only statue which was found in a kneeling position. Its name is Tukuturi. Scientists believe that the statue depicts an ancient singer. His position resembles the one people took at the festival of Rui. The head of the statue is lifted quite high, and you can even notice a beard. Tukuturi looks much more human-like than the other statues. Its smaller size and the unusual material the statue was made of, red punapua stone, are the things that make it stand out among the rest.
Thank you for watching, and much love to you all.
Yeah, so very cool.
And I really can't help but notice, but there are a lot of times when we were hiking in the superstitions where I see like rocks that are like shaped like dudes or little like pictures of people. Like you said, they seem to have vanished around 1200 CE. I'm presuming CE is reasonably akin to AD. That being said, though, Hohokam, the people who vanished, and here's where they were.